here.
Korn Army. Sometimes on stage I look at it, I'm like, I kind of, like when I'm playing, I go, man, I'm going to be bummed when this all goes away, because it's like a big like family out there, you know? I look at all those people and I'm like, and I don't ever want to take advantage of it, you know? I just like feel, wow, man. That's why we're always so cool with all our fans and try to be cool, because
we appreciate
we know
it.
where we started, and we know where we're at, and we don't forget you guys.
The Californian five-piece known as Korn burst onto the hard rock scene in the mid-1990s. Trouncing in their wake the big hair and spandex image of 80s metal, Korn would bring hard rock back to the kids by way of hip-hop culture, in what we now know as nu metal. Even today, after 5 studio albums under their belt, Korn are still pushing the creative envelope, eager to try new sounds and expand their ever-increasing body of musical influences.
There's a little bit of new stuff in there, but we're just trying to really get riff-oriented, where it's just about the music and not so much relying on extra effects and sound and stuff. So it's kind of, you know, we just try our hardest to experiment and come up with new, fresh sounding stuff.
Korn have always cared deeply about their fans, tirelessly reinventing new ways of keeping them informed and supplied with new music.
We're trying to shoot for an album every year. Seems like bands stopped doing that. It seems like it takes 5 years between albums, and that just sucks. It gives the fans music to listen to and keeps them interested, I think. So if we can pull it off, we're gonna try.
Above all, their success has come through a deep-rooted passion for what they do and what they stand for.
We're just like, you know, doing our thing, what we want to do and what we love to do. And everybody's just digging on it.
Korn have changed the way music is made and are now considered one of the world's greatest rock bands. But how did the boys from Bakersfield, California achieve such global domination?
Times have changed, though. You know, we were in like the 70s. This is the 90s. Our kids are gonna grow up like with guns and shit.
Basically, I think times have
Different
changed.
time.
Different times. When we grew up, we were just all products of our parents were in the 70s and 80s, and now it's just a different time. So kids are different now. There's a lot more problems out there today.
It's not gonna be another like 15 years before we have even our kids are like old enough to, and by that time, who knows?
Yeah, it'll be different then.
The world's probably gonna be over.
The first thing that hits you about Bakersfield is how much nothing you have to drive through to get there. A small town surrounded by a huge island of fields, plonked in an enormous ocean of desert wasteland. The wild lights of LA are only a 2-hour car hop, but for a bored, transportless teenager, it might as well be the moon. 3 things dominate Bakersfield, or B-Town as it's known to the locals. The first is agriculture. Drive 10 miles out of Bakersfield in any direction and you will be in a field. Oil is the next. The town has a permanent smell that has you worried each time you light a cigarette. And finally, there's religion. Churches are more popular than burger bars, and in America, that's saying something. Dubbed Nashville West in the 60s, Bakersfield's place as the Californian country and western mecca did little to inspire the town's young. Throw in the dominant oil, agriculture and religion, and you arrive at an environment guaranteed to screw up anyone under the age of 35. A town big enough to get into trouble, but small enough for everyone to hear about it. To understand the uniqueness of Korn, we have to look at the extraordinary individual members of the band. As a young boy, one Jonathan Davis quickly learnt how the rigours of constant touring could rip a family apart. His dad, Rick Davis, was a professional musician, spending vast amounts of time away from home, flogging the well-trodden US country and blues circuit. Ironically, Rick was to count Reggie Fieldie Arvizu's dad amongst his travelling bandmates. In his first early years, Jonathan spent a miserable time being shuffled back and forth between relations, stepmothers, aunts and uncles. In these first important years of his life were planted the seeds of insecurity, doubt and distrust. These would later grow into anger, hate and rage in his early teens. Jonathan's belief in guardian angels, aroused by his own paranoid encounters with dead grandmothers and great-uncles, were rammed home by an astrologer aunt. He grew up seeing ghosts, almost becoming one himself when he suffered a nearly fatal asthma attack at the age of 5. Death was always part of the youngster's life, an impression he would carry through into adulthood. Trapped in a pre-teen B-town nightmare, one of Jonathan's only positive emotional outlets was music. As well as touring, his father ran a music store off Korn Road. Jonathan was encouraged from an early age to play with a bizarre and eclectic range of instruments that crammed the shop from all corners of the globe. Here was a real link to a real world beyond the fields and dunes of his prison. Jonathan would often borrow instruments, persuading his school music teachers to show him the ropes. Once a few basics had been absorbed by the hungry mind, the young Davis would work out the rest for himself. In this manner, he became experienced in all kinds of musical techniques, including the violin, piano, clarinet, double bass, and famously his beloved bagpipes. And all by the remarkable age of 12. In the late 80s, and still a boy, Jonathan had yet to meet both James Monkey Schaefer and David Silveria. The two were well aware of the former's existence, however, as they had both dated his sister. Whilst Davis kept himself to himself, some of the other eventual members of the band were already kicking their heels and jamming together. With little else to do except get wasted, Bakersfield supported a surprisingly large music scene at the time. Like any isolated town, the kids had to look towards themselves for musical inspiration. Out of this melting pot, through pure enthusiasm and naivety, would emerge an extraordinary range of bands who would change music forever.
At the time, Bakersfield was a real interesting blend of you had the punk rockers hanging out with the club kids, hanging out with the hippies, hanging out with the metalheads, Hessians we call them, and everyone seemed to get along pretty well. And at the time, we had a pretty active underground scene.
The new metal sound that was to stem from bands like Korn, Cradle of Thorns, Video Rome, Edema and Orgy was more a factor of isolation and ignorant bliss stemming from Bakersfield's location rather than a calculated commercial assault on the music business. The music sounded different because the kids knew no better. There have grown up many legendary myths about the antics of teenage life in Bakersfield at the time. These include stories of wild debauchery at infamous field or kegger parties.
Yeah, at the time in Bakersfield, I guess the thing to do was to go to field parties. These keggers out in the middle of nowhere, and those were pretty notorious. And I was a goofy little 14-year-old with a bowl haircut, and no.
The truth is that these were basically like any parties that any teenagers in any town would throw, only in fields. No TVs, no computer games, no liquor stores around the corners. Just beer, fields and music. On the other side of town from Jonathan, Brian Head Welsh was growing into a drum-obsessed 10-year-old when his father, tired of carting the kids' growing kit all over town, suggested a tactical switch to guitar. Within a month, Brian was mastering Queen riffs and loving every minute of it. James Monkey Schaefer's introduction to the axe came about in a more unusual manner. Slipping out from his parents' house under the cover of darkness to attend a kegger one night, the 14-year-old Monkey cunningly managed to trap his finger around his bicycle chain. According to the MD on duty, the injured digit would recover quicker if the youngster took up an instrument. Fortunately for us, Monkey decided against the clarinet, but was sold a right dog of a guitar by Head. A battered PV Mystic, fleecing the novice for all his worth. Another regular fixture in Brian's garage at the time was Reginald Arvizu, alias Fieldy. Encouraged by his musician father, Fieldy took up the bass because, well, everyone else played guitar. For a Bakersfield lad, Fieldy's musical taste at the time seemed exotic and strange. Growing up amongst 80s big hair metal bands, listening to the rap and hip-hop grooves of Grandmaster Flash, Africa Bambaataa and Public Enemy must have gone down like a parent at a keg party. It was Fieldy's love of the funk that was to play such an important part in Korn's groundbreaking sound, and an acceptance of such diversity in modern music. In the late 80s, however, big hair metal, as defined by acts such as Motley Crue and AC/DC, wanted nothing to do with this newfangled stuff, where people talked over records, sometimes not even their own. In America, hip-hop and metal did not mix, period. Although no one bothered to tell the youngsters of Bakersfield at the time. These friends played in a variety of bands during the late 80s, chopping and changing amongst the tight group around the Bakersfield scene.
You find places like pizza places and churches that will kind of loan out their place as an act of offering. You know, it's more charity than anything, and that's what makes it quirky, and that's what makes it kind of a little more spirited than in like Los Angeles, where a scene could be supported openly like that.
The first band of any merit was a big hair metal 5-piece called Ragtime, featuring Fieldy on bass and Head on guitar. The band's name was designed to embarrass the girls, and the group indulged in all the spandex, lycra fluorescent hairspray excesses of this embarrassing period of hedonistic 80s music. One can only assume that hip-hop Fieldy developed a fantastic sense of humour and self-irony. In Bakersfield, they went down a storm. Over in the Davis household, things were going from bad to worse. Rows with his new stepmother, the demons from his childhood, coupled with the inevitable head trip of adolescence, sent Jonathan over the edge. By the late 80s, Jonathan was listening to a wide range of music. He was particularly into goth, industrial synth, and new romantic pop of bands such as Kraftwerk, Bauhaus and Duran Duran. This brush with new romanticism would see Davis sneaking off to school with bags full of makeup and hairspray, landing the quiet loner into all sorts of trouble amongst his predictable redneck Bakersfield school peers. He was even taken off to see the gay students' counsellor because he wore makeup. Regular beatings and constant calls of queer, faggot and HIV would eventually lead Davis to adopt the taunt as a nickname. Jonathan eventually had HIV tattooed on his arm as a final finger to all those rednecks who made his school such a misery. Music, however, was always there for Jonathan. By now, his father had taken over the running of a large recording studio in the town, Fat Track Studios. The singer Buck Owens was a major country and western draw for Bakersfield, even sporting its own museum to the man. Rick Davis was a long-time collaborator of Buck's and jumped at the chance to run the studios. By the 1990s, Jonathan was predictably into synthesizers in a big way, an exotic sight in Bakersfield at the time. The luxury of a large recording studio must have seemed like heaven for the disturbed youth to retreat into. At this time, Jonathan started sneaking off into the bright lights of LA to see breakout Bakersfield bands such as Cradle of Thorns, now signed to Korn's record label under Videorome. The impressionable Davis recalled how these trips made him so happy he would literally shake with joy, making it hard to keep the car on the road. Ragtime would eventually fall apart as Fieldy and Head were keen to break out in new musical directions from the other members of the band. During their last high school years, Fieldy started playing around with his old friend Monkey, and together with Head put the feelers out for a new drummer. These were far and few between in Bakersfield, as most teenagers instinctively chose the axe as their weapon of choice. In what has now become a legendary part of the Korn mythology, Fieldy was to encounter his eventual rhythm section sparring partner in the form of a message left on his answering machine by a 13-year-old boy. However, the group's smiles were well and truly wiped off their faces when they heard the skull-crushing noise produced by one David Silveria. David had been banging away on the skin since he was 9, and without a single lesson had become quite an accomplished drummer. The four would continue to play together, on and off for a couple of years whilst they finished high school. Beckoned by the sirens of LA's thriving club circuit, the group were ready to break out of the small town. The band were keen to shed their small-town roots, so they first moved to Redondo Beach for 6 months. Here they were known as the Boys from Bakersfield. They then moved again to Huntington Beach, where they became the Boys from Redondo, finally shaking off their Bakersfield legacy.
People that are from LA like to root for bands that are from LA. It's like when your best friend plays minor league baseball, or he went to your high school, you want this guy to make it to the pros. It's kind of like that with bands from LA. They're playing the Roxy, now they're selling it out. I want them to get a record deal. Then they get a record deal. Now you want them to sell records. But then once they start selling records, it's kind of funny. People kind of get upset when your band, when you saw them before they had a record deal, now Jimmy, who lives in the gated community, also likes them.
To reinforce their solidarity with their new-founded adopted home, they even took up the name LAPD, named after the LA Police Department. What had initially stood for Love and Peace Dude eventually became Laughing as People Die, in an attempt to harden up their act and ditch the hippie connotations. Head, meanwhile, would return to Bakersfield to earn some much-needed cash, but would join the band for gigs and tours. Now joined by vocalist Richard Morales, LAPD fitted well into the Huntington new punk and rock scene at the time. The band lived in poverty for a few years as they slowly gathered a reputation amongst the thriving pub and club scene of Orange County. But the times were good, and if you're going to be penniless, you might as well be it in a warm, sunny, surfer-cool resort such as Huntington Beach. Here, the group would eke out a simple existence, spending most of the money on booze and living off hamburgers with any spare money.
Yeah, they played over at at Bam Bam's Mars downtown a lot, and that was where I saw them a lot. And I think that's when the group I was in played with them. And they were a bit heavier than us. They were playing that kind of what we call dirge metal at the time. And I was in a punk rock band, so it wasn't as easy to like say you dug them. You know, I was a snotty punk.
A long way away from the bright lights of the city, Jonathan, in the meantime, had found a new interest in mortuary science, having participated in a high school work placement scheme at the local coroner's office. For a time, he looked at this as a career, graduating with a degree from Mortuary Science School in San Francisco and scoring a job in the Kern County Coroner's Office under the watchful eye of Chief Deputy Coroner Jim Matouf.
Jonathan came in on a program we had where we would have young people through different high schools and stuff. They could come in here in almost like a career development. It was like an old ROP program. But anyway, what they did was we would put them into a situation to where they might be able to learn and see if they're interested in that. And so Jonathan, way back, and I don't know, I want to say about 1990, something like that, he came in one of those programs, and we put him in the back room to see if he could be around bodies and see if that might be a direction he wanted to head. What the autopsy assistant does is you have a medical doctor or a pathologist. They're the ones that are actually doing the autopsies, and that assistant is there to work with that doctor. They might have to open the body up. They might draw toxicology, body fluids. They'll help weigh, measure, remove clothing. Maybe if they're going to have to do an autopsy on the head, they'll open the head. They're right next to the doctor doing everything all the time, and they know when they finish up, they'll sew, you know, the whole thing. So they are right next to the pathologist. You'd have to almost pull conversations out of Jonathan and say, hey, what's going on, you know, and start talking to him, because he would not, you know, be the one to bring up a conversation, something like that. And but Jonathan was like that. I mean, it didn't really have anything to do with what he was doing in the back. And most of us that work around death a lot, and have been for a lot of years, you learn to adjust with, like, say, the type of case. If it's a baby that you're working with versus an elderly person, is it a traumatic death versus a natural death? You just almost have to accept the fact that that body that you're trying to get to basically talk to you about why they died, which is what our job is, to find out why people die, it's basically a shell that you borrowed for a while. And if you will look at it that way, and that you're really gone, it makes it a little bit easier. We teach the people that come in here how to do autopsies. We show them about the human body. I mean, you can go and you can learn anatomy and physiology and medical terminology, but we've got to teach you how to do an autopsy, and basically teach you through experience and repetition what you're looking at when you're dealing with the human body, because it's not like a textbook, it's not like some videotape or something. It's a hands-on, because now all of a sudden not only are you viewing this, but you're getting the odors, everything about a case, the human body, that you're touching them and you're dealing with them. So we have to teach that, and that when you come in here, you have to be very open-minded. You have to be open-minded and learn that it's not what you've seen with death on television, because that's not real. What you see here is real. And so you're going to see bodies other than the clean washed body under a white sheet. You're going to see the trauma. You're going to see insect activity, animal activity, all of it. And I apologize if that sounds gross, but that's real. And that's what we deal with, is real. And that is the way. And Jonathan did a good job, because he blended right into it and was able to cope with it and learn it. And I think that after he had learned that he could deal with death, dead bodies in their initial state like that, he thought that he knew that he could go on, and he was looking at a career in mortuary sciences, where he could go take classes on embalming and then the makeup and that, which is the next step after a coroner's off, working in a funeral home. And so that's where I think that he learned that he could, yes, he could cope with death like that. Even though we deal with death 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, you can't get callous over it. That's not the point. It's within all of us, and you bet we think about it. It's just how you deal with it, you know. And if we're going to go through some kind of a debriefing mechanism amongst, you know, your peers that you're going to work with, or you're going to go out and put it in the form of a song that you just want to express yourselves. And I think that's probably what Jonathan's done. And he didn't talk much about what he did outside the office. He just was a professional person that came in here to do a job, and he did it excellent. And so I don't know that, you know, outside, like I say, I wasn't even aware that he was getting involved. I mean, I knew that he played bagpipes. I think his dad told me that, you know, but I didn't know anything beyond that. People, if they put their mind to things, they can do it. So when someone's really successful, it doesn't really surprise me. Probably with what he's doing, I know that he was musically inclined, but I don't know about this, you know, that would probably surprise me more than anything at all, to say, you know, coming off with something such as this group. Yeah. There's no place like a coroner's office to learn how precious life is versus death, because where we deal with the sudden, unexpected, and traumatic type deaths, you learn how precious life is. It can be snuffed out of you just like that, and you're gone. And that helped Jonathan grow up, because he realized that, and he realized it for a fact because he dealt with it in reality.
It was during this time that Jonathan bumped into Ryan Shook at, of all things, a local beauty college, where Ryan was a student and haircuts were free. Ryan, who would later become the guitarist in Orgy, was heading a band called Sex Art, described as a more extreme version of Ministry meets Pearl Jam. Encouraged by Jonathan's penchant for, unsurprisingly, wearing blood-stained clothes, Ryan asked him to join the band as keyboard player. Although Jonathan had played in other small bands, Sex Art was different. They played the usual small Bakersfield circuit of ever-changing bars and clubs. Eventually, Ryan decided to step away from the mic and encouraged Jonathan to step in. At first, the shy and withdrawn keyboard player did not want to do it, but he eventually overcame his shyness and mounted the mic stand.
He didn't have the stage presence yet, and his voice wasn't that kind of growly thing that he's developed yet. So I just remembered him for his stage presence.
Inspired by the oral antics of Cradle of Thorns vocalist Ty Elam, Davis exploded into a screaming, frenzied animal, rolling around on the floor, shaking spasmodically.
I remember Jonathan, just because he had that same kind of spastic energy about his playing. I didn't see him at John Bryant's, but I saw them at Bam Bam's. I think it was called Bam Bam's then. He had that spastic grab the microphone with both hands and kind of, shake all around.
Back in Huntington Beach, things were going quite well for LAPD. The band had built up quite a reputation and in 1990 finally signed that first all-important record deal with XXX Records. The label were riding high on the success of their first two acts, Jane's Addiction and Cradle of Thorns. LAPD fitted in well with these groups, and the band soon found themselves on the road once more, touring the same old dives and clubs as before. Although XXX were only able to offer tiny sums of cash to their new boys, getting signed was a fantastic achievement and a tremendous source of pride to all involved. The initial excitement soon turned sour, however, as the band still found themselves desperately poor and having to take on part-time jobs to support themselves. After a year polishing up their act, posting their own bills, paying to play and basically hanging on in there, 1991 finally saw the release of their first album, Who's Laughing Now? Up to this point, they had only put out a limited release 3-song EP, the self-titled Love and Peace Dude. The LP, recorded at Redondo's Pendragon Studios, presented a very un-Korn-like bunch of 11 up-tempo punk rock songs. But the lack of money put behind the album's promotion, coupled with the label's growing concerns about the band, ensured the record died a death. The problem with LAPD was that they were gaining a growing reputation for smashing up clubs and bars they played, getting banned by more and more venues. Another problem was the band's increasingly disillusioned vocalist Richard Morales, who eventually left LAPD, citing the band's debauched behaviour. Eventually, the record company had had enough of their drunken antics and ditched them. The band were determined to continue and invited Head to join them full-time. Names are always a point of contention, and after passing on Crunchy Potatoes, the band settled on Creep. Now all they needed was a vocalist. Another great piece of Korn heritage was the moment the boys from Creep joined forces with Jonathan Davis. Early in 1993, Head and Monkey were holed up in a Bakersfield pub, John Bryant's. The group had searched the whole of LA for a vocalist, turning up no one. At this point, Head was actually considering not returning from this trip, staying on to work at his father's Bakersfield gas station. Legend has it that the guys were literally walking out of the door when they heard the screeching antics of Davis fronting the sex art freak show. The two looked at each other in disbelief and returned for the remainder of the set, transfixed by what they were experiencing in front of them. They knew they had found their man. Inside a month, Jonathan joined the rest of Creep in their seedy dive of a Long Beach apartment. It was a trip he very nearly didn't make, torn between LA and the loyalties of sex art, a comfortable job and a cosy home back in Bakersfield. Bizarrely, Jonathan cites an astrological reading as being one of the key factors in his decision to leave. But it took an equal leap of faith from Creep to take on board this odd, dress-wearing, makeup-strewn flock of seagulls fanatic into their midst. But Jonathan fitted in right from the start, admiring the group's serious commitment to their music and realistic attitude towards the realities of this lifestyle. Within 2 weeks of Jonathan joining the band, they had been inspired enough to record demos of 4 new songs, Blind and Daddy amongst them. Creep were already feeling the darker influences of Jonathan Davis being amongst them in their work.
Ty from Cradle had taught him how to sing like that to a certain extent, and he had copied a little bit of his style. But what was strange was the guitar sounds. That kind of weird, using guitars to simulate keyboards and do these little almost sampled sounds and kind of squelchy, weird things.
The group had moved on so far in only a couple of weeks that it seemed only right to change their name. How the band ended up choosing Korn seems a secret set to die with them, such as the vagueness from the band when crossed with it. Rumours abound, from kiddie porn to gay innuendo. David explained in an interview that Korn really means it doesn't matter what your band's called. The music makes a name, and once established, your name becomes cool. One can't help feeling, however, that the name is somehow tied up with the band's Bakersfield roots, where the word Kern, as in Kern County, appears on every billboard, signpost and office building in the town. Kern County derives itself from the kern of wheat and corn, and as such is really the agricultural town's reason for existence. By June 1993, Korn had assembled a 4-track demo tape entitled Niedermeyer's Mind. Although a strange mix of styles, the sound was undeniably the Korn we now know and love.
Like when we were starting out, we had a demo. We're like dying for every friend that we had to hear it. Now we're just dying for the whole world to own it.
And hear what we do.
That's why we're doing it. We want everybody to hear it.
The lethal combination of Monkey and Head's dual low-strung guitar sound, mixed with Fieldy's deep thumb-bleeding bass and David's tight tom-heavy drums, made the perfect backdrop for Jonathan's incredible vocals. One of these tracks, Daddy, exposed Jonathan's deeply troubled childhood for all to see and remains to this day Korn's most disturbing song. The lyrics revealed a dark chapter in the lead singer's childhood, his encounter with sexual abuse. Despite the song's title, Davis has been quick to point out how a neighbour had assaulted him, and not Rick Davis. As much as discussing the song's deeply personal lyrics caused the singer enormous pain, the slur on his father's name was such that he had to speak out. The demo was enthusiastically produced by the band's old friend Ross Robinson, who proceeded to tout the tapes around town, hitting the many record companies, promoters and clubs that LA supports. For nearly a year, Korn continued to pound the LA circuit, scaring the hell out of crowds who stood jaw-dropped at any venue they played.
Kids these days are not into like what's in the middle. They want extreme. Hot tea or cold tea. Linkin Park, System, Korn, Tool, whatever. Hot tea gets you going, it gets you crazy. Who wants to just stand in the middle these days? I mean, the world is going fast, kids want to move fast, and I mean, let's be honest, the music gets you going, excited, hyper, camaraderie, fun.
No one had heard music as heavy as this, least of all the record companies who initially didn't know what to make of the band.
But in a way it's good for those bands because they're genuine kind of organic bands. You know, a lot of those bands were raised in Orange County or, you know, in Korn's case, Bakersfield or what have you. But of course they're in good striking distance of LA. So when the time came to do showcases or whatever, they could come up here and bus in their fans from just, you know, an hour down the street. And that can be an effective way of doing it too.
When I first heard Korn, I was blown away. I was kind of blown away. I was flabbergasted. I kind of was very taken by surprise on the type of music that they had just thrown into the faces of the public. I mean, it had what it took to be the shit at the time. I mean, even to now. I mean, it was grimy, punk rock, yet sophisticated, and it had emotion to it. It had feeling to it.
It really, it was Korn and Limp Bizkit and Deftones, and then that was like the beginning. Those are the people that I kind of felt like opened the door and they all played with the band that played with that other band, you know, whether it was Snot played for Korn, and then System played for Snot, and then Static played for System, and then Alien Ant Farm opened for, you know, Static, and on. So it was definitely, you saw each band getting bigger and bigger each time.
I think Korn were undoubtedly one of the kind of godfathers of the so-called new metal scene, if not the godfathers. I think it's Korn, Tool and Rage Against the Machine who define what we hear on the radio, and who most kids, most amateur bands, all the bands who are flogging their butt off down on the strip are emulating. And in terms of the finished product, Korn are the biggest influence. I mean, today when the mail arrives, I will get CDs in the mail which sound extremely close to Korn. You know.
But record companies were quick to pick up on the vibe created by Korn, generating a dedicated hardcore fan base who would track them down anywhere they played, and eventually RCA and Atlantic Records both made offers. This pleased the band no end, but their experience with LAPD and XXX Records had taught the band to be cautious. Rather than jumping in feet first, they wisely insisted on holding out for a record company that could guarantee the level of support they required. Paul Pontius, an A&R rep for Immortal Records, a young offshoot of Epic, had been staking out the band for months before making his move. The band liked Paul's attitude and commitment. He talked a lot of sense and was prepared to throw himself behind the band 100%. The search was over. Korn signed to Immortal in 1994. Pre-production duties began on their first album virtually the next day. The band were booked into an Anaheim rehearsal room to sharpen their sound, whilst the search started for a suitable producer and recording facilities. Korn worked night and day, hammering out the final musical touches to classics such as Bull Tongue, Clown and Faggot. Always the last part of the process, the lyrics would send Jonathan into long spells of self-imposed isolation and grief. Fueled on Jägermeister and crystal meth, the sleep-deprived frontman took his opportunities seriously, inviting out the demons and monsters locked away in his own soul to participate in his writing. Many a rested ghost would be woken in the process.
With Korn, Jonathan Davis's lyrics in Korn are so heartfelt and so personal, I believe. And you can tell that, I mean, he's had a fairly tough life. And I think that's why, especially in the beginning, so many kids gravitated to the guy.
I wouldn't try to be the voice of America or youth. I just think kids can relate with what we're about, what we talk about. Such as just, I don't know, negativity probably. Things that go on in their lives, they can just relate. They feel the emotions, and if they hear somebody else going through stuff, I guess it makes it better.
And then you throw in the musicians they have. I think they're fantastic, you know, Head and Monkey and Fieldy and David. And you combine those things together, and you have something there. But the lyrics is what initially, I think, drove people to the band. They're like, Jesus, look at this guy. you know, I feel bad for him, kind of. Kids like him also because his problems are worse than mine. I thought I had it bad. Look at this. Look at Jonathan Davis.
With the small record company Advance, Korn set about recording their first full-length studio album at Indigo Ranch Studios, Malibu. Jonathan's vocal duties, however, would be handled back in Bakersfield, where the vocalist insisted only his old haunt of Fat Track Studios would do. Only surrounded by the ghosts of his haunted childhood would Davis be able to arouse the demons necessary for performing his vocal assault. In preparation for the upcoming record, the band also realised they needed a Korn logo to go on the sleeve. In a legendary incident, Jonathan wrote the famous childlike logo in one go, using his wrong hand.
Ever since the beginning, Korn, they kind of caught me off. They had that hip-hop flow, that kind of hip-hop bounce. They were kind of, I want to say, one of the pioneers that kind of made it more to the mainstream with it. They had the sound that kind of made it more accessible to everybody's ears, you know. A lot more people caught on to it.
The resulting monster of a self-titled debut album was released in October 1994. Going straight for the jugular, the music Korn had put to disc was totally brutal in nature. Riff-laden heavy metal, replete with clever lyrics covering all manner of unsavoury topics, Jonathan Davis's unusual vocal style varied between singing, half-rapping and breathless shrieking. The music was too cool to be traditional metal, yet it was too white to be hip-hop. It was too heavy-handed, so it wasn't alternative. What really was on offer was something quite unique.
Their first album knocked me sideways like it did to millions of kids. It was, you know, combining rap and hard rock influences in that way with the little jazzy interludes which they subsequently seemed to lose was absolutely shocking. I had no idea what was going on. And you guys can go down to the Strip tonight and you'll see bands copying them. I mean, not just musically but visually, just incredible. They've got Fieldy's moves down, you know, and it's comical.
The band also developed an extremely fashionable visual sense in that they became a sportswear manufacturer's wet dream. Decked out in flashy Adidas gear, here was a band who looked like they were so concerned about street cred they needed no encouragement to wear not just the trainers but the entire athletic wardrobe. As the underground buzz on the band grew, Korn steadily began to build a large, loyal fan base of alienated small-town fans. Although they were largely ignored by many music critics who wrote them off as weirdos, Korn were adored by skaters, punks and a great many disenchanted youths who could relate to the quintet's ferocious music and lyrics. Propelled largely by MTV's regular airing of the video to Blind and bolstered by Korn's relentless 18-month touring schedule, by the end of 1995, the album had sold an impressive 300,000 copies, becoming Immortal Records' new golden boys. By 1996, some 24 months after its release, sales had reached platinum status. Immortal was so staggered by this achievement that they bought each member of the band a luxury Lincoln Continental motorcar. From here on in, the group's popularity was to spread around the globe like a virus. To date, sales of Korn's debut album have exceeded more than 1 million units. Not just content with chalking up a name for themselves in hard rock circles, Korn's pioneering spirit now extended itself into new media. In July 1996, the band made cyberspace history by becoming the first rock act to conduct an interactive radio broadcast on the internet. The event featured the band performing several new songs online and allowed fans to phone in a variety of hard-hitting questions. The internet was not only going to prove to be a valuable marketing tool for the band's music, but also a direct communications centre where Korn's ever-growing army of fans could express themselves and trade off each other. With new product in high demand, the follow-up to Korn's self-titled debut was rush-released in the winter of 1996. It was recorded in less than 1 month, again at Indigo Ranch Studios, Malibu, just so the band could get back out on the road to satisfy their fans. Produced again by Ross Robinson, the group's second studio effort was even less sonically palatable and more disturbing than its illustrious predecessor, not least because of Davis's unrock-like bagpipe playing. A natural progression from their first album, Life is Peachy found the band further sharpening its fire and brimstone musical approach, while Jonathan Davis seemingly drove deeper into the trauma of his youth for lyrical inspiration. Full of shrill, distorted guitar squeals, bass-heavy darkness and screeching growls, Korn's follow-up album was a musical tour through some truly evil corners. Here was a musically more mature Korn, with improved song structures and more pop tones creeping into their still very creepy tunes. But far from being radio-friendly, nearly every song included some sort of profanity, from the first single Adidas, an acronym for All Day I Dream About Sex, to the non-stop swearing of a bunch of cymbals. With the success of their first album and the inevitable promotional bandwagon required for Life is Peachy, the band soon discovered the delights of daily photo shoots, endless TV interviews and record company promotional duties, something perhaps the band took a while to get used to.
Is it always so hectic an hour before the show?
Yes, it is. No, it's not.
Does Korn as a band have a favourite material possession that they take with them on the road?
That we take on the road?
Yeah. You take anything special?
Yeah, I got a rubber ducky.
And it goes with you everywhere?
Yes, ma'am.
Head?
That miniature guitar right there.
David, what can't you do without on the road?
I don't know.
This would become a skill deftly handled by the band in years to come, but in those early Korn years became a gruelling task to be endured.
Do you think you'll be touring in Australia with Deftones in the future?
Maybe, maybe not. Possibly, possibly not.
Life is Peachy debuted at number 3 on Billboard's Top 200 album chart and caused a considerable buzz across the Atlantic, with nods from Kerrang! Magazine for Album of the Year and Best New Band. Selling in the order of 20,000 units a week, it very quickly reached platinum status in the US.
I don't know.
This one guy said that we don't have any melody in our music and we just are a bunch of noise.
And we'll be lucky to sell 100,000 records.
Yeah.
And so how many have you sold?
2.2 mil.
Woohoo!
By now, Korn had a fan base of over 2 million strong and a legion of musical imitators so large it threatened to saturate planet rock.
I guess it's flattering, but it seems to take away kind of from what we do. I don't think we have any problem with it. It just kind of sucks.
There's a lot of bands that kind of relate to us, I guess, but, you know, we kind of started the sound, but what are you going to do? It's music, you know? It's flattering. There's a lot of good bands out there that people say sound like Korn, there, you know, so it's cool.
We're already at the... I think new metal artistically is in its death throes. Commercially it's not. They're still signing those bands, they're still shifting units. But we're at the like the third generation of those bands. The bands who are appearing now are the tricksters and the warrants of new metal. You know, they're cookie cutter, they are Korn by numbers. Frankly, some of the music that's appearing is pitiful. And artistically, the thing's over. Commercially, it'll run on fumes for some time.
But I just don't like the idea of getting flooded, all these bands coming out that don't have their own identities. That kind of sucks.
Despite an uncompromising sound, the Bakersfield Metal Men had become a major musical force to be reckoned with, and a big influence on a whole host of burgeoning new heavy metal bands. In early 1998, while recording songs for their new album, Korn raised eyebrows when they inked a six-figure deal with sports shoemaker Puma, who offered them something in the region of $500,000 to change their visual attire. This tempting enticement prompted the band to sever its long-standing loyalty to sports manufacturers Adidas. Around this time, Korn also garnered massive headline publicity when an 18-year-old student in the conservative backwater of Zeeland, West Michigan, was suspended from his local high school for wearing a T-shirt emblazoned with the group's striking logo. Although the shirt bore no particular obscenities, the school's assistant principal justified the action by declaring Korn's music indecent and vulgar and their lyrics obscene. Korn responded by quickly issuing a cease and desist order against the school, demanding that it stopped what the band saw as defamatory comments about the band and infringing on their civil liberties. They also rallied behind the student by giving away free Korn T-shirts outside the school, and in a written statement released asked, where does an assistant principal get the right to preach her own morals and actually suspend a student? Taking a cue from stomping politicians everywhere, the band then launched a different kind of politically styled promotional campaign, providing them with yet another opportunity to laugh in the face of the good old American dream. The Korn Campaign 98 was to be a whirlwind over-the-top publicity tour for their highly anticipated third album.
That's why we did the whole Korn campaign, because we were coming out with the third record and we were getting all this big press. And the whole record was built up to be so big, so we were kind of worried that the kids that were there from the beginning would think that we're different or we changed or not the same band or whatever. So we wanted to do the whole campaign to go around and talk to the kids so they kind of got the vibe that we're still down for them and we're here for the kids. We weren't changing.
Some of them are old. They're not kids anymore.
Yeah, some of them
Oh, good.
Fans
hung out stuck with the Korn dogs.
This saw the band staging grandiose stunts featuring high school bands reworking such Korn songs as All Day I Dream About Sex, all set to a Stars and Stripes backdrop of marching bands, cheerleaders and guest celebrities.
I remember they came down in a stretched out Hummer, white Hummer. They made their way through the crowd. People were waiting for hours. I personally waited about 3 or 4 hours before Korn got there, and on top of that I waited about 3 more hours just to see them. But when they did roll up, they had a very nice entourage of bagpipe players leading their Hummer. Also behind the Hummer, they made a very noticeable entrance. But yet in the same way, they did make a rock star entrance. But in the same way, they took the time to shake people's in the crowd's hands. They still waved. They still noticed that these are what the people that made them what they are. I mean, not only doing the in-store appearance and getting to see all their fans' faces, interact with them. I mean, it wasn't a performance, but it was still a chance for the people to actually meet with Korn. It was actually a chance to actually see the person who the music you're listening to, actually get to see who they are.
This saw the band taking to the skies in their own private jet across America and touching down in 14 cities, where they turned up at record stores to perform an amped-up version of an in-stores tour and greet their fans.
That was that's the only time I think all of us here
It ever felt like
really
a
felt
real
like
job.
I felt when I woke up, they're all, get up. I was like, I'm gonna quit my job. But the only thing that kept us going is how loyal our fans are and we're gonna be loyal to them. So we would just get up and do it.
It was hard.
The next day.
60,000 kids in 2 weeks. We met.
It was hard.
A lot of this, a lot of this, a lot of this. Nights of like 5 hours of sleep and had to do it all over again. That was what was hard, not getting enough rest. I think that was the hardest part.
We pulled it off though.
I mean, I seen them signing guys' guitars. I mean, guys' guitars that Korn was their idols, and now they got the signature. I mean, they're just, the girls crying. Girls crying. They couldn't contain themselves. They were so happy. I mean, hey, that's not a bad thing. It's a good thing, And that's a good thing that Korn actually took the time to actually go down there and actually give something back to the fans. Let them know they actually care.
In addition to the new record and the formation of their own record company, Elementary Records, which they'd set up at the tail end of 1997, Korn put together its own Family Values tour, where they showcase some of the heaviest acts of the day, in addition to a throng of breakdancers, fire eaters, and a myriad of other cultural oddities. The critically acclaimed tour saw the band hooking up with like-minded acts, including rap rock buddies Limp Bizkit, Orgy, and Ice Cube.
The manager kind of came up with the whole idea, but we kind of came up with the whole stage production idea.
Us and our managers just got together. We've been talking about this for like, what, 2 years?
We wanted to make something like this happen, and we couldn't really come up with like a name or anything, and they came up with the Family Values name.
But we wanted to have it like a festival feel to it, a non-stop
indoor
festival.
Rock concert, bringing it back to the old school.
Where everyone has lights, sound, air conditioning. We've got a revolving stage.
Quote, AC
is good.
Tongue-in-cheek Korn even sent a telegram to former US Vice President Dan Quayle, inviting him to come and check out the tour.
Dan Quayle was Vice President of the United States of America, and he was trying to instill the family values, and he talked about some TV show that had no family values to it. But it was literally, a rated G TV show. And it was a non-offensive show, so Korn said, well, let's call our tour the Family Values Tour. And of course, there's not a lot of values that are family-oriented at the Family Values Tour.
By the time it had wound up its 27 dates, the Family Values trek had grossed more than $6.4 million in ticket sales.
With the state of the record industry, touring has become more important than ever, which is not what people foresaw, but obviously touring and touring merchandise is where it's at. So these tours are becoming huge. And if you're a global phenomena, obviously everything's multiplied many times. And the scale of these things is so huge that by the time you finish one, it's time to start the next one. So they are going out for extended periods, and as you say quite correctly, with a band like them, you can't just kind of stand there and go through the motions. They're not, Frank Sinatra's backing band. They really have to lay it out, and those fans, wherever they are in the world, have paid their money and they've waited for months to see this band, and they want to go nuts. And the band are coming from the opposite perspective. They've played these songs 300 times in the last year. They're already working on new songs which they're much more excited about because they're creative people.
Never shying away from the less travelled road, the guys in Korn were now producing their own TV specials to be aired on the official Korn website as after-school special online broadcasts. Korn were by now net junkies, having already taken to the World Wide Web for their historic online debut in 1996, followed up by a live cybercast of their set from London's Brixton Academy. Dubbed Korn TV, this landmark internet undertaking gave fans and curious users a weekly peek at their progress inside NRG Studios through a DIY talk show with a distinctively Korn flavour. The series allowed fans a live glimpse into the studio via streaming audio and video as they hammered out their latest sonic chapter in hard rock history. By the time of the release of their third opus, Follow the Leader, in August 1998, all the hubbub had many fans worrying about what any impending mainstream success might mean to the Korn experience. All the Korn campaigning had naturally paid off, as Korn's third album jumped straight in at #1 on the Billboard album chart. The group's eagerly anticipated follow-up would prove to be the most diverse, thought-out and meaty release to date. Korn were now truly secure, at the vanguard of alternative metal. Featuring stunning cover art courtesy of hot comic artist and Spawn creator Todd McFarlane, the record also displayed a hitherto unsuspected sense of dynamics and an emotional scope. Kicking off on track 13, purely because of Korn's superstitious beliefs of ending an album on track 13, the industrial-influenced Got the Life stretched the parameters of what Korn were about, as did most of the album's new songs. The considerably more touching Justin, about a terminally ill boy who met the band, displayed a softer side to them. The end result was an album that could well be Korn's swan song, and one that has found the band's ever-growing throng of musical imitators scurrying back to the chalkboard. An ambitious new record redefining the school of music Korn defined in the first place. For their next musical onslaught, Issues, the band wanted to try out a new approach. Always paranoid about distancing themselves from their fans, they sought out new ways of involving the kids by way of their official website and the many fan sites that had by now grown into the hundreds.
The whole process took us 4 months to write and record it. It was relatively really fast for us.
It went really fast because our producer, Brendan O'Brien, liked to keep things moving, and we have a tendency to goof off. And,
Bad. You know, I think we took all the elements of all the albums. I don't think it's different. I don't think it's groundbreaking new level kind of stuff because we didn't want to say that. I think we just accumulated over the years all of the 3 previous albums and incorporated it in one and just made it a different thing. I think the first 3 albums we did a certain type of music, and then like Follow the Leader was like the closing chapter in that kind of what was going on. As soon as so many bands came out and diluted what we were doing, so we just stepped it up and did something slightly different.
If you had to...
I don't know, it's just a different vibe. I think it's the darkest album we've done, definitely. Most emotional. Musically, it's incredible. I don't know. I don't know what to say. I don't want to sit here and say it's next level kind of. I just think it's different.
This philosophy permeated right down to the choice of cover art for the new album. Not content on choosing one cover for Issues, the band also released 3 other limited edition covers to give an opportunity to share the limelight amongst the Korn army.
Whose idea was it to...
Mine.
His.
I'm just kidding.
The fans, letting the fans do the cover art, and why'd you choose 4? Just 4? You
I don't remember whose idea that was.
Really? I don't either.
We just
whoever's
had the
idea was,
it was a
cool
good idea.
I don't remember.
But that was a good.
We could go with mine.
It was his idea. We'll just say that. It was fun to see how many. We got over like 25,000 entries, and it was just cool to see our fans draw pictures how they interpret the band. And it was just a good idea just to give back to our fans, because we're always trying to invent ways just to let our fans in more and become part of the band and get involved with us.
They had their fans make different covers, and not only that, they came out with 4 different covers just so more of their fans could have some of their art out there. I mean, that was great. I mean, that was interesting. I mean, not only that, I mean, Korn constantly has something going on with their fans. I mean, if you look at their website, I mean, if you get into the fan club, I mean, if you look into it, there's always something that's out there for the fans. Why? Because Korn is a fan-based band.
This guy kind of liked it. He held on to it, took it home with him.
I was gonna take it home like 3 times. I didn't think we were gonna use it, but it ended up being. It looked right. I don't know.
We all agreed on that one.
The doll looked sad, all right.
It was good. Picking out was hard because we all had to like it, because there'd be like one that Philly liked and I didn't like, or one that Head liked and Monkey didn't like. So we all had to be in agreement, 5 of us, of the cover, because it's our cover. So it was tough picking them all out. But
that was like the only one we all agreed on, huh?
Yeah, we just thought that was it.
I didn't agree on it.
He didn't. He goes, okay, whatever.
Yeah, you did.
I still like the stick figure drawing one.
Yeah,
that was mine.
There's really no significance of the doll. It doesn't really mean anything.
It's just cool.
It just looks cool, man.
Issues was released to critical indifference but huge commercial success, entering the Billboard charts at #1 and selling an incredible 600,000 copies in its first weeks. The success of Issues would crown an incredible achievement for the band as the combined album sales, or their music, smashed through the 10 million mark. At one point during the Issues promotional tour, MTV made a startling announcement about the band.
What's the worst rumour you've ever heard about yourselves?
Worst rumour?
That we all are gay and have AIDS.
Yeah.
You've heard that?
I heard something worse.
What?
I heard that
I
heard that we died.
A lot of smart kids out here hacked into the MTV website, I believe it was, and wrote a super eloquent story how Jonathan Davis was killed, and they had all these names of doctors in this and how sad it was. And I mean, people freaked out. I was on the radio here at K-Rock at the time. People were calling, people were crying. It was like Kurt Cobain had died. It was the same type of effect. And I had David's cell phone number, David from the band. I called him. I couldn't get in touch with him. Then I called up their management. I'm like, what the hell's going on here? Where is Jonathan? They're like, he's on a bus right now in Canada. I'm like, give me the number for God's sake. So called Jonathan, had him on the air, minutes after the story had come out on the website that he died, and he just had a great laugh about it. He's like, man, I'm not even close to dead. I'm having the best time I've ever had. You know, hopefully I'll be around.
More than any other band in recent years, Korn have gained success through the loyalty of its fans. They have successfully carved a healthy following out of Middle America and the rest of the world, striking a nerve with a misunderstood heavy music-starved youth. Korn have just released their latest album, Untouchables, to critical acclaim and loyal support from their fans.
Their fan base is very strong. I can't say enough about it because everywhere you go these days, you're going to find Korn stickers on cars, Korn shirts, Korn kids. I mean, you got 32-year-old guys at shows and they call themselves Korn kids.
It's this fan-centric mentality that brings Davis's tales of sexual abuse and general freakdom to an understandable level. This band has taken their psychic traumas and transmuted them into an art form, framing their early pain with slashing guitars and barbaric drumming. In hindsight, these gnashing metal purveyors are by far one of the most popular and provocative rock acts to emerge during the post-grunge era. Their music and social awareness has made for a revolutionary mix that has redefined heavy metal better than anyone has in the last decade. Korn's music is filled with such contrast. This hard rock band samples rap, funk, punk, alternative, whatever. They deserve kudos for finding head-banging energy from any material available.
I don't think fame has gone to their head. There are some bands out there, so just so you guys know, I'm not spitting, nonsense that I just can't stand because fame has gotten to them. And I just don't get excited about them when I hear the music. And with Korn, I get excited because they're good guys still.
Korn exorcises their demons the only way they know how, with music that was never meant for adults or the mainstream to understand.